Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Strife's Sanctum podcast. My name is Citizen Strife, and it's that time again for the rundown of the anime for the spring of 2025. So, getting towards the tail end of a lot of different shows, and usual rules apply for this. It's going to be dubbed episodes only, so I might be an episode or two behind, maybe more, depending on the scheduling. Obviously spoilers if you haven't seen any of these, because I'm getting very deep into some seasons. So I'll kind of go over the shows as they're pretty much finished in most cases. And just by and large, if there are still questions that I don't know, I'm, talking rhetorical and, trying to guess things and trying to ensure that I'm aware of what my thoughts were before, because especially for something like Apothecary this week, a lot of things changed. Black Butler, a lot of things changed since what I've been watching. So those two specifically, was I on the money or was I anywhere close to the idea? And the answer was no. But I'm happy in both instances. So, other shows, probably nothing much has changed, and I will just kind of go over them at my leisure. But we'll start with Apothecary, because I was saying for the longest time, when are they going to get to the Lowland thing? When are they going to do the fucking... Because they've been teasing it for over half a season, if not more. And they've basically just put Lowland in a goddamn chair, and they don't know what she's doing, and she's just kind of sitting there going, being a fucking grump, right? Well, they finally acted on it. And they did it in a way that I should have seen coming, by and large, but didn't. For whatever reason, I didn't even put it together until, of all things, I'm reading up the cast list again, because I'm just like, okay, I'm getting more cast members in here. Am I keeping people straight? And I'm like, oh. It's like, I should have seen it coming, because they were kind of telling you right away, why am I focusing on this person, this she-sweet person, so goddamn much? Well, it makes absolutely fucking sense. I should have been paying any attention at all. It wasn't until the imposter episode that I'm like, wait. Oh. I was like, oh. So that was the first time I actually put two and two together, because for the life of me, for a good 6 to 8 weeks, several episodes of this, I've kept saying, when are they going to focus on her? Because they're making a big fucking deal out of really a nobody. And they've been doing it right under my fucking nose this whole fucking time. Because their goal was to introduce somebody else and then frame it around that. So the whole time, the sympathetic nods to Mau Mau despite being kidnapped, all this other stuff made sense because there was somebody else they were trying to introduce who was a fucking bitch this whole time. And then again, what Apothecary does very well is that if you remember things, or at least have seen the show enough and remember it might be innocuous things in episodes, but they'll, Mau Mau will bring these back, or Jinshi will bring these ideas back to you and be like, oh yeah, it does make sense now. That's what a good mystery does. It ties everything back together, but it doesn't ass pull a thing out of nowhere and be like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. No, it makes absolute sense that she'd be hiding in plain sight this whole time, and then that she would be after Mau Mau because Mau Mau is super fucking smart and good at her thing. And the whole point, apparently, of not just the rebellion, but this Shinmei person who they introduced is make a fucking immortality potion because I'm a beautiful woman and you're a fucking putz, so just do what I say. Shit like that. But all of this stuff about Shisho and him not really being an effectual villain, but now tying back into, okay, Jinshi is really this Moon Prince guy, all of it makes sense 4 or 5 episodes before the end of the show. The season. I don't think the show itself is probably ending anytime fucking soon. It's too fucking good. I would even hate the show to be done at 48 episodes. I'm good with it longer, you know. But if they end there, they end there. It's fine. That being said, I am very happy that they didn't go for some weird ass rug pull. They just said, well, if you were paying attention, you would have caught all the signs and been like, oh, so that's what this lady's been this whole time. I get it now. Do I accept it? Yes. I mean, it didn't make the... It's one of those reveals where it's like, does it make the preceding 20 or so episodes where I thought nothing of this character, does it suddenly, like, change my opinion? No, it changes my opinion of what she was as Shisui, much less Lowland, because I don't really care about a Lowland, the politico and political puppet and whatever. I like her as Shisui, that person. So I guess that's the whole point. It's frustrating because on one hand I admit that I enjoy the fact that they finally brought around and answered my question. I just wish that the portrayal of Lowland herself would have been way more interesting. They say that by saying she just played us all. She's an amazing actress. She wasn't real this whole time, or she had an imposter. It's like, it's one of those little background effects that I do still, but at least now I understand why they did it. And at the end of the day, understanding why a show does something the way they do it is important. It was not a loophole. It was not a plot hole. It was, they had a plan and they worked it. So I give them that. The same thing with Black Butler. Black Butler, Emerald Witch arc, there was always going to be some weird thing. You know, kind of in the same way the public school arc always had this weird thing that they were going to do. The question was, what were they going to do? And this idea about the ultimate spell and what it was and what the werewolves actually were and what Sieglinde was really doing. Again, playing on sympathies. They went as dark a route as I could have thought. One I also didn't pick up on, and I don't think I would have, you know, because I've said this before. There are no, like, original stories ever. Like, if you want to make something original, you make something fucking weird. Because if it's too fucking weird, there's no logic. If you make it too cliche, then it's cliche. It's the, you know, boilerplate cliche, like this ending with the spell and who the werewolves actually were being German soldiers. Like, it's one of those things where I could have seen it coming, but I don't think I ever would have guessed it in the realm of possibility, given that they went so far in this this mechanism of, we have this insane backstory, this Emerald Witch, and we're going to make you believe that this Emerald Witch exists and that this world of werewolves exists and things. Then they focused more on just staying in the forest and not leaving. That was kind of my first inclination that something was amiss. Because it wasn't just protecting Sieglinde. No, it was protecting their own interest, and now I know why. The story was these soldiers are creating this toxic gas, this mustard gas stuff, and they needed Sieglinde to do it. And the fact that you pull this, like, child-rearing experimentation on this little girl who didn't ask for it from the beginning is fucking rude and disgusting. And I'm kind of glad that the show understood that and pulled no punches in saying, all right, this lady who was supposedly this girl's mother who set her up for this whole fucking scheme for 10 years as part of a fucking experiment, she got screwed over. And it was very cathartic because they reveal the whole thing in an episode. And they basically just say, CL and Sebastian basically both go, yeah, fuck these people. they're fucking assholes. They deserve to die. And I'm like, right there with him, sitting there going, yeah, they kind of do. They kind of do deserve it. Because if this was not Black Butler, if this was a lighter comedy, they would have gotten off scot-free or they would have been arrested. No. Black Butler is very well within its purview of saying, no, we'll just kill this person. Because that's the ultimate comeuppance. And then take this, they still have a few episodes to get away from the army and then deal with this whole gas situation, but they've revealed all the things. And then what they're going to do with Sieglin, what is that going to be like? Because you have this girl who can't walk. You have this girl who's basically an invalid in the way that, it's a Victorian setting, but essentially her mindset is 300 years behind where it should be, or at least stuck in this just fantasy. So how does she interact with it? I would be annoyed, I think, if at the end of this Sieglin just doesn't make it. I'm sure that's not what they were going for. I think it was enough that they got rid of her mother after the reveal. I think Sieglin coming to grips with it and finding a way around it would be good. It was her story, after all, and Ciel and Sebastian were just there, because I think that's what Black Butler is kind of trying to do, just weave in different, smaller scale stories and just having them be, matters of fact, because Black Butler could last forever if they really wanted it to. I mean, it's already lasted about 20, so nothing's stopping them from doing 50 more of these, season-long stories. I think Emerald Witch, again, they have to get out of it. There's still 3 or 4 episodes on my estimation left. So they're gonna survive. The question is who else is going to survive. They're not ending Black Butler this fucking soon. That's why they called it an arc. They know what they're doing. If they were going to call it the final season, they would have called it the final season by now. So they got through what they needed to get through. Would I have appreciated a more fantastical version of that? Maybe. But I think it was enough that they went as far as they did with this Sieglin person and what they were doing. It was... I've been saying this recently, that Black Butler is grotesque enough as is. They've definitely not shied away from divvying down the comedy to enough of a passing fancy. When they need to, they dig into the drama way more. Yeah, this was pretty intense and just kind of wrong and disturbing. Kind of what I expect this Black Butler to be. Because I've always had, ever since the non-canon second season, there's been this willingness to go that route. They go this route when they need to, but it doesn't feel like it's unearned or just there for shock value. It feels like this is what Black Butler's supposed to be now, and it's meant to be this kind of 70% drama, 30% comedy-ish kind of thing. And none of it feels unearned. And I'm happy that they chose a path in the story where they could have went the fantastical route, or they could have went Sieglin is just messed up in the head and just doesn't accept it. No, she accepts it really freaking quick. And she accepts that this is the reality of the situation, and the curses and werewolves and weirdos aren't real. It's just a fucking toxic gas all along. I mean, yeah, toxic gas and biological weapons and rearing a child to be a science experiment, that's fucked up, So realistically, I'm happy that they went the way, because there's other mysteries left to solve in other shows. Anyway, here's a show that isn't a mystery. It's Underwear Atelier Meister. Same deal as the last update. They went through their date sequences, they did their thing, and they're just doing their thing. It's pretty much just save Hildegard and get going. They even introduced her, and they did the goofy, you're intervention early in my life made me a freaking child forever. And I'm like, okay. But again, there's always these like little things that the show does. It's like, it's a little heavier than I was expecting. Because as opposed to Black Butler, this is 95% comedy, 5% drama. And I'm not even kidding. There's like no stakes to the show at all. So when you hear somebody saying, I need you to kill somebody, I'm like, really? This show? You want to kill somebody? Okay, whatever. So there's that 5% poking out of the background going, all right, so the final episode of this, I haven't seen it yet. It's going to debut on Sunday, I think. They're trying to decide if they're going, because they've already kind of shown their hand. This isn't a high stakes show, but it's the idea of like, do you kill a person? Do you not? Like, is he accepting that as his fate? Like, what the weird, So there's that 5% of like, that actually have stakes that actually sort of matter, despite none of the show mattering at all because of the tone. Not in a bad way. I've stuck with it the entire way, but I've understood that that's what I was in for this whole time. There's been a lot of like Reddit posts and people going, I'm so sick of this fucking guy being so unaware, being so dopey, like the most unaware guy ever. And it's just infuriating and stupid. And the show has no redeeming qualities. And I'm sitting there being like, I can see your point, but I mean, if you just want a dopey show to turn your brain off for 10 episodes, 12 episodes, there you go. But I do understand that, like, this guy being OP as shit and this having, like, no bearing on the plot because the show doesn't want to have any plot, it's fine, I guess. I'm getting enough intensity from 3 or 4 different shows. I'm willing to allow myself this one as the dopey one, which I've enjoyed. But that's finishing this week, I think. Did Devil May Cry. I dumped Moonrise. Oh, what was it? Beginning? Oh, it was beginning after the end. Speaking of dopey and almost no stakes, this one tries a bit more than Unaware, but not really. This part of the show was Arthur is back with his family, and they have this life in this cushy village with this cushy, this cushy house with these cushy people from high society. And Arthur is like super amazing, so he gets this free ride scholarship if he wants. And this daughter is like taken aback by it. It's like, you're perfect in every way, and I'm just a fucking scrub, and I don't like it. And Arthur is, nice enough to say, no, you're not. Nobody's a scrub. And I do enjoy that this sort of angsty old, king dude in this guise of this 10-year-old boy or whatever is like, I'm not perfect. And I don't accept everything as what they are. Just because I have this power doesn't mean that I don't have feelings for things. And he's always said, like, his family comes first. Let me have a go at certain things and tell you that, I can help you do a thing. Let me help you. So again, low stakes show, again, a little heavier than Unaware, Atelier, Meister in that sense, but not really. Like, you kind of know you're getting, how would I describe it? One of those, like, riding the fence kinds of things where it's like, if I had to put a number on, I hate putting numbers on things, but 6.5. It's like 6.5 show, right? Good enough that I'm watching it, but if I said I hated it tomorrow or I got sick of it, I wouldn't doubt it. But it hasn't had that happen yet. So it's perfectly in that 6.5. Both of those shows are just, I like it enough for what it is. I don't see myself dumping it because it's not pissing me off. And that's rare because there are a lot of shows. I think, what was it, Teogonia, that was doing that thing. It was sort of like Demon Lord retry. Like, I was giving it 3 or 4 episodes to see if I wouldn't hate it. And I just started hating it. If people started hating these two, I would totally understand that. Gorilla, like, go-to girl, same idea. It's a perfectly serviceable 6.5. It's nothing I hate, but it's not anything I'm just, like, engrossing myself in to the point where I, like, have to watch it. It's just there, and it's a good counterbalance to all the other shows that have existed, because Gorilla God's go-to girl, has anything really changed since then? Not really. They accepted that they loved each other, Louis and Sophia, and then stuff happened. And then they do this episode where they're like, yeah, but the other guys kind of like her too. I'm like, we're not turning this into a harem show, are we? No, don't do that. It's dumb. You've already done the love confession scene. You don't backtrack now. So that episode I just kind of gave up on, It's just like, God damn it. Don't do this. Like, stop trying to make the other person, the other two characters have feelings for the main character. We already know that like, the love confessions happen. Just stop it, So that episode I just kind of, I think I'm happy that they dumped the earlier bullying thing and they don't do that anymore. And like, it's mostly just about the romance subplot now. And again, it's very basic. It's again, 6.5 shows and shit like that. So all of those three, beginning after the end, and Atelier, Meister, and whatnot, they're good enough for me to be like, I like these characters, or I like this setup enough that I'm like, I'm not killing myself watching 20 minutes. If it was a drag, I would be. That being said, back to the good shit to end this. We're going to be talking about Kowloon generic romance. And speaking of mysteries, they've been kind of teasing this weirdness of Zirconians, and what does that mean, and what is generic Terra, and all these firsts and seconds, and what does this actually mean? And they added a wrinkle to it. It's because they've revealed the idea that Kowloon was destroyed and they rebuilt it. But they also made the people not exist either. So the idea was that if people leave Kowloon, they don't remember it. Or they forget that it exists. Or if you've never been to Kowloon, you know about it, you've heard about it, but anybody who actually is there doesn't exist. And if you are an original person, like the first version of yourself, if they made a second person, a Zirconian, or in Kujirai's case, a generic, that version goes away. So the original exists, and then you don't. So not only do you not exist, you're not supposed to exist, you're not meant to exist, and then people don't know that you exist. If you step out of the city, you just poof. And the show has been centering on the idea for a long time now of, if you are a secondary version of something, or a clone, or whatever, or an imitation, do you still have feelings? Do you still mean something? Are you as important, or do you have a reason for being, so to speak? And it's not just Kujirai and Kudo as a romance. It's everybody's involvement. It's Yaomei. It's does Yaomei have a feeling for Kujirai? As a friend. Do these people matter as, sort of lovers? Does this person have an issue dealing with his father? Miyuki, does he have an issue dealing with his father? How real is that? Are they, is he a fake? Is he a second? We don't know that. They still have like 5 episodes-ish to go, right? But they've done a good job of peeling back a lot of layers without, like, giving too much away. And they're pulling the Apothecary thing where everything does matter in the end. We just don't want to give everything away. Like, what is Kujirai going to do? What is Kudo going to do? What are all these people going to do? And what really happens to Kowloon once this happens? Now they're kind of filtering in the idea that the weather never changes. So is it just stuck in time? Is it this weird, like, greenhouse effect? Is it this, like, experiment? Generic Terror, are they doing the Emerald Witch thing, or is this just place closed off from reality and nothing exists? Why is that? Are they cultivating second versions of people? Like, they haven't even gotten that far. They keep alluding to this generic Terra thing in the sky, but they've never yet said what Kowloon is. So they still have things they can do. And because they were focusing on the characters first and building the characters, like, I care what happens to them once all the other reveals happen. And again, if it's the Black Butler thing, if it's the Apothecary thing, if you have the characters first, then I care about what happens to them when you do plot twists, because I care about their reactions to things. I want to know what, Reiko or Kujirai B is going to think, or what Kudo is going to think once all the shit, because everybody seems to know except her and her friend. So it's like, they won't tell her everything, but the show is moving at a smart pace. They aren't just everything all at once, because if they did that, it would be no mystery. So I'm very happy with this. As far as shows that weren't sequels, this was the one that I said was the best one, and it stayed there. And I think with a few more episodes, like, they have to live and die under what they're going to do with those answers. But I think that's really good, because this has been kind of my favorite of the new shows, and I want it to stay that way. But that'll do for this week. Let's see what we've got here. I've got the episode of Link Between Worlds already ready for next week. Violet Evergarden, I've finished watching that, so I can talk about it. Bravely Second. Let's see. When in Doubt, School Arc is next. And then Legend of Dragoon. Haven't put it on my post yet, but I'm thinking either Dual Destinies, the 5th game of the Phoenix Wright stuff, or Nier Automata, or both. I'm not sure. Like one after the other. I don't know. But that'll be into August, or late August, or into September. So I've got some time to worry about that. But for now, I'll call this an episode, and I'll see you guys next time.